Hey guys, on the saga of the Siege of Tia event, we are actually surprisingly doing a lot better. There's still a couple things like, why are we going into the edge of the map down here? I don't freaking understand. But we are actually getting most of the buffs and we are making some solid progress, which is very, very nice. And that leads us to needing to do the bosses now, which is great. I'm definitely really glad that some people realized that you had to go for the buffs and you couldn't just waste your time, and we had to do that. So that's really nice to see. And we're basically gonna need to do a few things. I'll go over those, and then I'm gonna go over the Solcadens boss, a couple teams, how to get like the highest score possible, etc, etc. That's the main focus of the video. Now, a couple of things we need to do now is we need to focus on getting these 3 buffs. These are the last buffs that we can get apart from beating the bosses. We also ideally could go a little bit further here, but I mean, this is so expensive that I don't think we really need to do that. And then the other thing is to go down to Lord Phineas. In my opinion, Lord Phineas has the best buff out of all the bosses. In my opinion, none of the bosses really have that crazy of a buff, but this one is still pretty good. This is actually one of the main priorities for bosses, apart from the easiest one, which is Solcadens, and is the one I'm going to be talking about. So, focus Solcadens if you can. Now, to go into it, this is very gear dependent. This is going to require some awakenings for high scores, but there are a couple strategies you could use, including using other people. So no matter how strong you are, you can still get some benefit. And then I'm gonna break down how the stage works. So this is a raw, pure damage check. It is a single target, hard damage check. The boss is immune to debuffs though. So Infernals and the Poisoners, Esotericists, are not gonna work, even though they are strong single target units. So going into how the boss works, the boss is going to do a couple things. Basically, he's going to do a normal attack where he attacks one area. Then he is going to do a flame fall. Then he's going to do another one of those attacks I just mentioned, which is just kind of an AoE in one area. And then he's also going to summon a bunch of minions. The minions can be largely ignored because, well, they're very squishy and they don't do much. So as long as you have anyone in their way, they're going to die. So ultimately, you need to focus your own damage. Now, this is going to be a co-op event. This is really fun content. I really enjoy this type of thing. I hope that they do more co-op stuff in the future. Regardless, the main thing I can say as advice is no matter what team you use, you must bring your own buffs and your own healing. The way this works is your healing and your buffs are all independent to you. They are not shared across teammates. I tested this. I had a teammate use Rivenhold as I didn't use any inspo. My damage did not go up. I tested it with, just kind of common sense. Oh, they have an airless down as part of their team. Well, it didn't heal me, so therefore it doesn't help. There are a couple things, like I noticed that Desomi's shield did in fact apply to me, even though a teammate had it. Whatever, I don't know the nuance on that, but just try to bring your own healer and your own buffs. Now, this is going to be the best team. I'm going to show an alternative very soon. Basically, how do you get the most single target damage? You use Dracula. Especially with the buffs that we have, we do have a fighter tile, so Watcher is going to be really good, Nightmare, as well as Chaos, as well as the fact that the boss can't be debuffed, right? So you just want as much damage as possible. Now, a couple of substitutions are as follows. You could use Durza. Durza can replace Gretchen, can replace really whoever. The reason why I have Desomi is so that we keep ourselves at low HP in order to do more damage. That was very important. And he also does inspiration. He's going to be really good on a team like this. You could use Sergei, you could use Valeria, you could use really anyone. You could use your Wukong. Wukong, even without a Lord, is going to do a lot of damage. That's a bunch of stuff you can do with the chaotic team. Once again, I'll go over a different team in a moment, but this is the team that I will use, and I get a lot of score. So before getting into the run, the most important advice I have for you is no matter how strong you are, if you are brand new to the game, you can only do 100,000 or you could do even less. It does not matter. Memoria Assist exists. Now, I would love to, recommend if you're getting a large score, if you're getting like over 1 billion or 2 billion, if you can leave in the comments your name, people can maybe add you and be able to use your Memoria Assist. This essentially, you take someone else's auto, if they have done it already, and you can run it. And some of these guys have crazy scores. Me, if you borrow mine, which I only have a limited amount of friend slots, so I can't accept everyone, but I do about 2.2 to 2.5 billion damage on just my auto. There's other people. In the runs I'm about to show you, there's a guy I used who did 2.3 billion, right? Use that. 2 people, you could use their autos. You do not need to have everyone to spend morale. You only need yourself. If you're not here to just have fun with some friends, this is a good way to do it. Like P4 defend, he's so strong, I could probably borrow him, and then me and him alone could do the max score. Now the main score you need to try to get is a 3 billion. It does go up to 4 billion as display, but it seems like only 3 billion is going to give you the max rewards. I think the 4 billion is a visual bug. Anyways, going into the runs, I was with 2 guildmates. I used the corpse, which is what I've been calling the memoriam of the guy with the Asian freaking characters, and then I was doing this with Icy Panda. As you can see here, I do place down everything on one side. Generally, you want to allocate someone to the middle, someone to the right, someone to the left. If you're using a memoriam, you just gotta adapt to what they're using. As you can see, I put everything on the left. Because I'm using Gretchen, Gretchen gives a crit damage buff and rage regen to everyone around her, so I put her in the middle. Then I made sure I placed Dracula after my Valdoron, my Sargak, etc. to, end up getting a bunch of stacks there. And I put Tasomi just to cover my people. Remember, healing and buffs are independent. They are not shared. You just need to focus on yourself and make sure that your placements are as good as they can be. And then I have auto ults on for everyone but Dracula. Very, very important that you manage your Dracula ults. If Dracula is ulting as you get hit by the main AoE from the boss, you just straight up die. There's nothing you can do. So I generally wait for the flame fall, which is what it's called, to be about to pop. Then I use the ult, and then I can get a second ult off in time because we have that Cyrus buff, and I'm able to get 2 ults per cycle. And you can see on the right, I am the green. My damage is crazy, right? I'm just boosting up my damage a ton, and it is helping a lot. And here I'm just gonna spam a bunch of ults. Now you could also, change this up depending on your team, but for the most part, this is pretty normal. Also, very, very important, placing Count Dracula at the top is necessary. The boss does these Hellfire verdicts and will hit the people, I think, lowest. And if you have your Dracula down there, he's just gonna die, unfortunately, is how it works. So you need to make sure that you place him in a spot where that's not gonna kill him, where you only have to worry about the AoE. Now, if you're using a different healer, you could use like a Narissa, you could use a Tallulah, you could use a Airless, you could use freaking Carnelian. I know Banana Luck uses Carnelian. Regardless, we're only looking for like 3 billion. You may notice that we are doing more than that. Like I said, we get a lot of scores, so we're just gonna push it pretty heavily. There, I'm breaking 1 billion with only Dracula, which is crazy. That's the highest damage I've seen any Dracula do so far, and I could have done more if I managed my ults a bit better. But as you can see, we did 6.9. Now, there is a cap to how much you can contribute, and we unfortunately did reach that cap, which is a little bit sad. But you can see there that I did about 2.6 bill. We had another guy doing 2.4 and then 1.8. That's the damage numbers. Crazy, crazy run. Really, really nice. Also, gear-wise, really quickly, I obviously, since it's content with an infinite ceiling, I built them as well as possible. I have a chaos ring here. I have full on Hell's Lament. I have Unstoppable Force, which is really good, and I have my best chest plate. Just build them as best you can with Hell's Lament. 1 crit damage is what I used. I don't know what's the best. Sargak, I had Infernal Roar. If you're using like a Sergei, you could do like Soulbound. I also had Unstoppable Force, as well as Shadow's Gaze on him. For Valderon, I actually had Cataclysm. You could do IR, you could do Soulbound. I just had this piece, so I decided I wanted to use it, and I had Aggression on the weapon and his exclusive. Going into the Gretchen, we have Unstoppable Force again, my 3rd one, and then I just had Soulbound Arcana on her, Shattered Hilt. And then for Dasomi, you want to build him like an inspo unit with some speed if possible. So that's what I did. Then I had his exclusive. I assume Scarab might be better, but it's what I ran. So that's the gear that I ran. Now, this is not the only team you can run. You can run a couple things. So first of all, I'm not going to show a run for this, but you could use Nightmare. You could have like a Rygar, Kagiri, Wukong. You could use an Arrogance. You could use a lot of things, right? Fighters are buffed, so you could take advantage of that, of course. The other thing you could do, which is what I did, is I ran Ingrid, Wukong, Kagiri, Airless, and then I also ran Dracula because he's the best DPS for this content. You don't need Dracula. You could put in like a Lucius, a Deja, a Talon, anything that does good single target damage you could run. It really does not matter what that is. But this is, in fact, the thing that I did run. And I'm going to show you that run right here. Going into this run, I had the same people, same teams, everything. But I did have a different team myself. And this one still did quite well, just not as well. And I basically placed everything very similarly. Over there on the left, I had things placed. Kagiri, unfortunately, liked to target the minions. So I think his damage was a little lacking. And funny enough, throughout this run, my Count Dracula still almost did the highest damage, which is funny. Here I'm disabling everything except for Wukong ult, just letting it auto that. And then I tried to time Kagiri along with the boss's attacks. I didn't want Kagiri to just auto ult and then end up doing like no damage with his ult. I wanted to try to maximize him as much as possible. So that was the main goal there. As you can see, Kagiri does insta-kill the mobs on the side, which we don't want. We don't need that at all. But, you know, it's how it is, right? We move on. Regardless, we're just doing what we can. Time and Dracula ult the same. Trying to do a Kagiri ult every time the boss does one of those hits on Kagiri's section right here. Ult, bam. And I just did this over and over again. Now, if you do have some different things, if you can do Rivenhold instead of Airless, that's actually going to be really huge. Rivenhold is great because not only do they do Inspiration, but they also do shields, which do apply on Dracula even when he's ulting, which is good to keep him alive, and also will heal, which will keep you alive, right? So Rivenhold is actually really good. I just wanted to use Airless for funsies, just because. Now, we're already above the score that we need. Once again, if you're struggling, just use a Memoriam, and that'll be huge. Every little bit of damage helps. So we just need to get that damage out there. You know, at this point, there's not many other tiles we need to get. We need to try to start working on the bosses a little bit. So either way, as you can see on the side, Sun Wukong and my Dracula are both doing a ton of damage. Even without a Lord bonus, my Dracula is still doing 500 mil. I don't know why, but he was cranking out damage. If you have not Soulstoned him and you already have your Wukong Kagiri, Diao 1, Valara Awakenings, if you have her, get your Dracula awakened already. He's really good. I do recommend. Regardless, we are finishing up right here, and Sun Wukong and Count Dracula out damaging an A4 Gretchen, all the Valderons, everything except for the Draculas, which have a Lord bonus. As you can see, I did 2 billion overall, and that was very nice. Damage number wise, here you go. And that is a watcher comp, generally. Now, with that being said, that is the Solcadens boss. I recommend focusing this one first, just because it is a little bit easier than something like Twin Fiend. If you want to focus Twin Fiend as well, I will try to have a video out if he's still alive tomorrow. But I don't really want to get 2 videos out today because I'm very busy, so this is the one that I decided to focus on. Regardless, even if you don't have some of these heroes and you can't get the damage, the main things still are present. Memoriam, if you're struggling, not only that, it makes it so that you need less morale, and it might actually be better because I don't know if everyone puts points towards completing the tile. You might get the same amount of points but without making 2 other people do 50 morale if you just do memoriams. But regardless, just try to maximize your damage. Focus single target damage. Remember that you need your buffs, so inspiration, you need your own healing, so something like Dosomi does both inspiration and healing. Someone like, you know, Rivenhall does inspiration and healing. Focus stuff like that if you can. Otherwise, just brute force it, is my general advice. Anyways, no matter what you can get, any little thing helps. And we still do need to work on some other tiles, as you can see here, but we're making good progress. I also suspect that the devs might have made it easier. Anyways, that's kind of everything I want to talk about. Thank you guys so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Best of luck, and Destined signing out.